What's going on, guys? We are back. We're here to do the Big Brother All Stars nomination recap. Nomination and HOH, excuse me, HOH. This is David. He's here with me on Sundays and Wednesdays. I'm Cam. You guys have seen me before. We don't really have a whole lot that went on in this episode. The HOH comp took up 30 minutes.
Took up 30 minutes, and then we got an additional 30 minutes of just nonsense strategy. Like, oh, I don't know if I should do this. I don't know if I should do that. So,
right.
Another boring episode. But
there's a couple of things I think we can get into as far as the comments that were made as people were dropping down from the HOH comp. So, but we can go ahead and get right into it. The first thing went over is Tyler. Tyler now seems reignited, like he really wants to play the game. I don't watch the live feeds, so I've heard that's a bit different. Like production didn't allow him to quit the game. I'm not sure how accurate that is, but it seems like he's kind of reinvigorated into the game. You feel the same?
Yeah, I mean, we got a kind of hint of that at the end of, I think it was Wednesday's episode, where he had that DR saying he's kind of like got his head back in the game and he wants to win this money for him and Angela. So maybe he's just found some sort of ulterior motive, but I mean, it's good from a viewer's perspective that he wants to play again, because it's always disappointing. I mean, even when we see in Celebrity Big Brother, I mean, the common theme of those seasons was, especially the first one, was players not wanting to be there and just asking to quit. So, it's nice to see players in the house who actually want to play. So props to Tyler for, waking himself up, I guess.
Right, and that's the Tyler we want to see. That's the Tyler we've been waiting on, is the competitive Tyler, the strategic Tyler, the guy that wants to play and win. We hadn't seen that in the first 5 weeks. It's been kind of frustrating because you and I both know what he's capable of in the game. He's a great player. He's kind of coasting right now, and he's still playing a great game.
Right, and that's just a nod to his social game. I mean, I was one of those people who was excited to see him come back when I first saw the cast reveal, but I didn't know how well he was going to do. But, I mean, his social game is held up. I mean, from the get-go, everyone wanted to work with him. So we'll see if he's able to make it past this week. I feel like he could go for another deep run in his Big Brother career.
Right. So, like, as soon as we go through that, we get to this really awkward situation between Davon and Christmas, where they're both apologizing, but neither of them mean it. Like, I'm not really sure exactly what happened there.
Right. I mean, I feel like it was more genuine on Christmas's side, or maybe it was just jury management or whatever, but she basically just wanted to clear the air with Davon right before the eviction happened. And then Davon's like, or Christmas is like, if I win HOH, you can look me in the eyes and you're safe this time. Then Davon's just like, yeah, same girl. And then we get Davon's DR where she's like, yeah, no, that's not happening. And maybe Christmas was more genuine, but it's just, typical phony gameplay on both sides. And as you said, I don't feel like either of them meant what they said. It was just purely game.
Yeah, and how ridiculous is it that Christmas sits there and apologizes, but then says, oh, and keep me safe. Like, I just wrecked your game. I just yelled at you. I was very condescending. I destroyed your friend. I destroyed your best friend, like, in this game. But hey, look out for me now, would you? Like, that's ridiculous, is it not?
That's another thing I wrote down too. She's in no position to be asking favors. And I mean, it's a little naive to think that the people, as you said, that you just destroyed their games are going to help you out. So,
And Davon just takes it. She goes, oh, yeah, honey, don't worry. You're totally safe. And then goes to the DR and goes, hell no. Like, hell no.
Right.
It's not safe.
It's a good snap call by Davon. I mean, you don't want to let that linger and have that awkward silence. So good move by Davon just right away to say, oh, yeah, you're safe. Wink, wink.
Yeah, and I think Davon had a good game, a good episode. She did a couple of really good things. When we get to the HOH comp, she's the first one to fall out, but she did it strategically, which I don't think I've seen in a long time, is somebody dropping out first strategically, but it made sense, right?
Right. And, I definitely won't compare her to Dr. Will, but Dr. Will obviously has the same strategy of wanting to be seen as weak. So, people can easily mold him or whatever. Obviously, he had the whole mantra of never winning competition because he didn't want that power. But yeah, that whole segment was kind of hilarious and confusing because I'm like, when she said in the DR, she's like, oh, I want to throw this because they all think I'm weak. So I want to keep it that way. I'm like, okay, like you could be in trouble this week, but I can understand where you're coming from with that strategy. And then it cuts to her in the DR crying. I'm like, wait, what? Did I like miss something? And then she's like, oh no, these are fake tears. I prepared for this. I'm like, oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I was kind of writing some things down and I was listening to her as I was writing them down and she started crying and I was like, wait a second, something's not right. Like this isn't adding up. And then I look up and she did the whole, oh, I'm faking. I was like, all right, that works, I guess, if that's what you want to do. But I liked it. I enjoyed the fact that she recognized it. She understands her position and place in the game enough to where she can throw the competition and it works for her. Because that's why she's right. She's absolutely right. That's why she's still in the game. She can't win a competition. They feel like they can just get rid of her at any point because she can't win. Why not just play that up? Give it a couple of weeks. Maybe the target comes off your back a little bit and goes somewhere else. And then you can work a little bit with some new alliances.
Right. And that's an easy end for her to get into that big majority alliance, as you just said. And we cut to a scene later in the episode where her and Danny are talking, and it seems as if they developed some sort of relationship over the past couple of weeks. So, yeah, I mean, solid strategy by Devon. And, I mean, as you said, I feel like I agree. She also had a pretty solid episode tonight.
Right. And so the twist on this HOH comp is the first three that get knocked out or drop out become the have-nots for the week. So basically what it is, it's you're on this wall and you have your hands behind you and the wall leans forward and you got to hold all your weight up with your hands. So it's kind of designed for the lighter, more flexible people. But yeah, the first three that drop out have to be have-nots. So although Devon, she knows her place in the game, it's kind of a risk versus reward. She drops out, but she's got to be a have-not. It's the risk you take to get further in the game. It makes sense. David then falls after he's talking about he wants to win. He needs to. If he doesn't, his game's over. And then he falls like immediately, right?
Right. And yeah, so we have Devon, David, and then Ian are the have-nots. And then Memphis is like, oh, as long as I don't have to be a have-not, I'm fine. So then he drops literally right after Ian, which I also found hilarious. So yeah, I mean, all's well that ends well. I mean, I think Memphis probably didn't even need to win that comp. So,
he's another one. He kind of knows where he's at in the game. He knows that he's not going to be the biggest target out there right now. He's got his hands in both alliances. He's not necessarily running things, but he's in a good, comfortable position to where other people in his alliances are bickering with each other. And he's just kind of the old man, just sitting back.
The grandpa, as Bailey called him after.
Yeah, he's just the old man just sitting back, hanging out, just hanging out with the young kids. Because he knows like Tyler and Danny are going at it. Davon's got her eyes set on people. He knows that Enzo and Cody aren't going to come after him. So he's in a comfortable spot right now. So he's right. So all he wanted was to not be a have-not. That's all he wanted. And immediately, like you said, as soon as Ian dropped, he realized, okay, I'm fourth, time to go. I'm not hanging around here any longer. I think you and I both agree, even if he did need to win the HOH, this isn't the comp for him.
Right. And I feel like he's a lock to make it to the end game just based on what you said, how he's well protected from all sides. And honestly, if someone were to win HOH besides David, I feel like no one would target him because, I mean, nothing against Memphis. He's a solid player and he's an all-star for a reason, but I don't think anyone's going to waste an HOH at this point in the game on Memphis Garrett. So, yeah, he's in a good position. So I feel like he could definitely make it far, and he's well protected and he's got plenty of options moving forward.
Right. And then after that, so soon after Memphis drops, Enzo drops. And I didn't understand why. I didn't understand why it dropped, why he dropped. He switched his grip for some reason, and it didn't make any sense. The grip that it looked like he switched to was more uncomfortable. It doesn't make sense to me.
I switched my grip, yo. That's it, yo.
Yeah, like, why would he not just stay still? Like, then he went awkward. We went one up, one down. And I was like, Enzo, man, come on, just chill. Like, just go with it, man. But when you switch, you got water pouring on you. It's getting slick. And when you move your hands, those dry spots your hands are holding on to, it's over with.
And that's just an instance of Enzo getting a little cocky. I mean, he even said in his DR that he got a little too cute trying to switch his grip where it looked so uncomfortable. It looked like this on his hands. It looked so painful. So, yeah, I mean, he even said he was one of the few people, as we'll get into, that actually wanted to win this comp. He's like, oh, I wanted to add an endurance comp to my my resume. So, Yeah, I don't really get what Enzo's doing, but he's getting a little cocky.
Yeah, he's definitely. But he's in a good spot too. He's almost in the same spot that Memphis is as far as a comfort level right now, because he's got the same people around him and the same people that protect him, and he understands. He knows that Tyler's not going to come after him, Cody's not going to come after him, and Memphis isn't going to come after him. And he's in an alliance with the others, so really he's just kind of worried, about the Davids and Kevins. That's what he's worried about,
Right, and if this season continues on this course, I mean, we could be looking at Enzo yoing his way to the finish line, if you will.
Hey, that was my pick before the season started to win. I'm completely okay with where he's at. I mean,
he's playing a phenomenal game.
He's not making a jerk of himself on the feeds, to my understanding. He's playing a good game. He's not a target right now. He's won a few comps. He's in a beautiful spot.
Right, and we often hear the word in Survivor resume, and it's kind of transferred over to Big Brother, and I feel like if he were to make it to the end, he'd have a pretty sizable resume. I mean, his social game speaks for itself, but the fact that 10 years later he's able to prove he can win some comps is pretty impressive.
He got better. He literally got better with age. He literally, as far as the physical comps are concerned,
Right.
Yeah, so after he gets knocked out, or after he falls, the next one to fall in the HOH is Kevin. Kevin then falls. And I have a bit of an issue here because Kevin falls and we keep getting this whiny, this, oh, woe me, Kevin. And he says after he falls, oh no, now I gotta try to survive in the game again. I'm like, that's what you're here for, man. Like that's the game. Everybody but two people get voted out this season. All right. I hate it for you. I hate that you might have a big target, but that's the game. That's what you signed up for. So this whiny, woe me, I can't stand it. I've said that before. I know I've told you before. When people's backs are against the walls and they get upset, oh my God, it's just, and the whiny voice, I can't stand it.
He's leaving everything up to chance. I mean, we haven't really, other than maybe that one conversation he had with David about rallying the outsiders that week he won veto, he's just done nothing to really improve his spot. He's just like, he's accepting his spot in the game as just being expendable, as he said, and being put up as a pawn. So it's just disappointing. I mean, I like Kevin from what I saw in BB11 this season. I mean, he could be on track to go deep again, but, not a fan of his gameplay, but it's been working out for him so far. I mean, each player has a different strategy that works, but, he's just doing nothing to change his spot.
At this point, though, it's almost it's deep enough into the game now at this point where he's the pawn. And I know it sucks because in the game you have that saying, the pawn goes home. The pawn always goes home. His social game, I think, is good enough with the people that have won HOH that if he is the pawn, he's not going home because there are such bigger targets. It's almost right now to where he should just sit there, embrace it, try to win the veto to pull himself off. If not, just realize that whoever's going to be sitting next to him is going to be a much bigger target than he ever would be. And I think that's kind of the game that he needs to start playing is, hey, look, I know I'm going to go on the block. I get it. But if I'm a pawn, can you put a big target up next to me? Can we do that? And I think he can work that angle a little bit.
Right. And especially someone like Cody that would work with because Cody's all too familiar with someone like Victoria from his original season who sat on the block a record 10 times, I believe. And, just everyone knew she was never going to go home every time she was on the block, except for the end when he made the fatal mistake.
And she knew that too. And that's why you didn't see a whole lot of, I mean, she complained a little bit, but you didn't see a ton of complaining because she knew I'm on the block. They're not going to vote me out. I haven't done anything. So that's kind of, I mean, at this point, you're not getting out of that pawn phase, right? Like you're too deep into the game now. You're expendable. Stay expendable, right? Stay as the pawn, and then when the cracks happen, hopefully you win an HOH and you can corral the troops. That's kind of where he's at, I think.
Right, and he's just got to play that angle and just hope for the best. I mean, honestly, he just has no leverage in this game. He has no numbers. I mean, even the outsiders, like they seem more interested in working their way into this majority alliance than working with one of the outsiders in Kevin. So, yeah, if he could just work that angle, it could serve well for him. If he could win a jury vote, that remains to be seen. But for the time being, I feel like you should definitely play that approach, use that strategy.
Right. And then the next person who drops out is Tyler. You kind of want to go over how he dropped out?
Yeah. So he was kind of struggling a lot, and he was like, basically, we got multiple segments of this in the DR where he's just saying how the conditions are really affecting him, and basically, it just came to a point where he can no longer sit up there, and we get like the montage of him like rocking back and forth, and then he eventually just fell, and it came down to Nicole, Cody, and Danny at the end. It's 3 people who did not want to win.
Right. Yeah, we'll get to that too, which doesn't make any sense. But yeah, Tyler was like, he basically only wanted to outlast Danny. That's the only person he wanted to outlast because as we know right now, Danny and Tyler, they have this Cold War going on right now between each other where they're best buddies, they're in an alliance, but each of them knows if one or the other wins the alliance or wins the HOH, I'm probably going to be on the block or I'm going to be a target for a backdoor at some point. Right. And Tyler has kind of embraced that as well. We'll get to the conversation that he has with Danny in a little bit where he basically says, look, I know what's going on. If you do it, you do it. That's fine. But that was his main goal in this HOH was just outlast Danny. Unfortunately, he doesn't. He falls out. He's pretty disappointed because everybody else he's good with that's up there. So the odds are kind of in his favor at this point, right?
Right. And he's just hoping that Nicole or Cody can win because even though he is aligned with Danny, he feels more comfortable with them. So he's just holding out hope for one of those 2 to win after he falls.
Yeah, Sam, I've been, and I know you're in here, you watch your videos every week, and I agree. I think Danny's going to change the game up a little bit. I've been saying that I want this for a couple of weeks now. I want Danny to win because she's, like I said, she's been planting those seeds. She's been playing a bad social game. So when she nominates 2 people, she's going to upset two people that they think they're in alliance with her, right? So I've been wanting this Danny HOH because somebody's getting upset. And it's going to shift the game. The alliance is probably going to crumble after this because I like it when Danny wins HOHs because you don't know what she's going to do. And I know the live feeds, there's things going on in the live feeds. I know there's something crazy that's going on with Vito. Don't spoil it in the chat because we don't do the feeds on this particular show. But I'm excited. I believe it's on Tuesday this week, right? It's not on Wednesday?
Yep. It's Tuesday episode.
So we'll be able to see what happens there. Hopefully a big move's made and it shakes up the game. But the next one to drop out of the competition is Nicole. America's favorite player, Nicole Franzel, the whiny one herself. She basically looks around and she sees that it's Cody and Danny left, correct? Yeah, Cody and Danny are the 2 that are left. And she doesn't want, I hate this, it's so overused. She doesn't want blood on her hands. She looks around. She said she's in good with everybody. So this whole idea that, you know what, I don't want power. I don't want it. I'll give everybody else power in the game and I'll be at their mercy. I hate that way. I hate that way of thinking. I can't stand it. Like if I have an opportunity to take it, I want it.
As much as I hate to say it, the last few weeks, she has been playing a lot better, Nicole F. She was able to survive the whole Janelle Kaiser feud with both of them now out of the house. And she's kind of realized like, okay, now that they're gone, I should just kind of be like behind the curtain, just let everything else happen. And we see this in a later scene when she's talking to Danny, and she's been doing this the last couple of weeks where people are approaching her about game situations and she's just not really been giving her input. She's just been like nodding and agreeing and saying like, whatever you'll do, I support it. So, America, as much as we hate to say it, I do feel like Nicole F is in a great spot here to advance a little further until people catch on that she won. But, it's frustrating.
Her social game, she's about to get real quiet in her social game because she's got that expensive wedding coming up and she's losing sponsors left and right. Like, I mean, because of dumb things she's doing in the house socially, we don't really need to get too far into it, but mocking people for disabilities and stuff, or being in the general vicinity of it and not like stopping it, just kind of laughing about it and stuff like that. So she's about to get real quiet. I think production tipped her off on it. So she's taming it down a little bit, to my understanding. But yeah, so she's about to get real quiet because she's real nervous. She wants to make sure the people like her, which she's America's favorite player already. So she doesn't have to worry about that. But back to the HOH competition. The next one to drop. So we've got Cody and we've got Danny.
2 people who don't want to win it.
They both say they don't want to win it. And do you kind of want to go into who drops next?
Yeah, so Cody just basically says, and this is what he also said when Nicole was on the block, or Nicole was still up there, is that those are 2 people who have not ruffled anyone's feathers, which obviously is an inaccurate statement because we all know Nicole and Janelle had that whole feud, as I just talked about. But he basically says they've been kind of coasting so far and they haven't made anyone mad, whereas Cody obviously had to make a huge decision winning the week 1 HOH. So he drops and basically says Danny's got to get blood on her hands this week. So Danny, the person who wanted to drop right after Tyler fell off, ends up winning in a crazy sequence of events, and just sums up this season where gameplay is an enigma.
Danny is sitting. Okay, let's break this down real quick. Danny says she doesn't want to win the HOH, but when you look at her in this competition, she's grunting, she's yelling, she's fixing her grip, she's doing everything she can to win this competition, but she says she doesn't want to win the comp. It doesn't make sense. Why in the DR you're supposed to own your game? Because they can't see that, right? So if that's what you want to tell the other players, that's totally fine. Tell them that you didn't want to win it, right? And just so happened that you ended up there. But don't go into the DR and then tell us, the viewers, who can see everything, that you didn't want to win it. Own it. Say you wanted to win it. You wanted to get a letter from your husband, get a letter from your kid, and all those kinds of things, right?
Right. I mean, just like Brett said in season 20, just own it to Rockstar. And I do agree that whole thing was confusing. She was like, maybe she was just trying to sell it, that the fact like she wasn't trying to throw it even though she did want to throw it, and then she ended up winning it. That whole dynamic just so confusing to me. But maybe she was just trying to sell to the other players like she was actually trying to win it. But yeah, I mean, I've just been super confused with everyone's gameplay and intentions this season, and the editing. It's very confusing for an all-star season, above any other season.
So we've been waiting for a little bit of chaos, a little bit like a good gameplay. I think Tuesday might be the day. The reason is because we've already got Danny, who has Tyler on her radar. She's always game to make a move, whether it's to her detriment or not. We've seen in BB13, she's willing to make those moves early if she has to, even if it ruins her game. She's willing to make those moves. So whatever happens with Vito, I don't know. But we have David here, and I'm going to give David a compliment. I'm going to say David did something good. This is not this David, the David in the game. Yeah. It's a rarity that David is going to get a compliment from me, but he was talking with, he was doing the DR, and he basically said he has this disruptor power. So whatever the nominations are, he can take them off and renom them, right? It's both, correct? He can renom both of them?
I feel like it's only he can save himself, but I could be wrong. I'm not sure if it has but
either way though. So
he can save himself is right.
He can create some chaos, pull himself off after the veto, and replace it with whoever he wants. That could completely change the game, right? So let's go back a couple of weeks, right? Let's go back to the I think it was the second week. Maybe it was the first or second week. Can't remember which one it was. The Memphis and David situation, where Memphis had this fixation on David and could not let it go. What if David uses his disruptor power, puts Memphis on the block, and Memphis goes home? How would you feel about that scenario?
I mean, it'd be satisfying from like a TV perspective and a storytelling perspective. Like Memphis becomes obsessed with David. David survives Memphis's HOH, and then David sends him packing. So from a storytelling perspective and from like a production perspective, excellent. Like that's just, that's a funny thing to look back on. From a gameplay perspective, it might not be the best decision for David to go after Memphis, because that'd be more personal in my opinion. Not that I don't know who else David would target in this scenario, but yeah, I don't know if it'd be the best thing for him to take out Memphis, because I feel like, Memphis is easily, actually, no one can work him over. What am I saying? He's very fixated in his own ways, but nah, I mean, I don't know, because I'm trying to think. He wouldn't take out any of the bigger fish, because I feel like he's in with Cody, Tyler, and Enzo. We got that scene a couple weeks ago where they, even though they don't take him seriously, they want to keep working with them. So I guess that would be his only option, but I don't know if that would be good for his game. So yeah, to sum up what I'm saying, it'd be awesome to see television-wise, but game-wise, I don't think it'd be his best move.
Right, and the compliment that I was going to give David was that he's not telling anybody about his power. He's keeping it to himself. He's not letting anybody know, no matter who it is. He's not telling them. He's just going to use it and surprise the house. So many times we see issues in all the games, all the reality games, Big Brother, Amazing Race, Survivor, all of them. If you have an advantage of some kind, you always spill the beans, and then people can plan around it. You can't plan around this because he's not telling anybody. So it's going to create maximum chaos. It's going to shatter one of the alliances. One of them is going to get shattered. And then maybe David can pick if David is a player, which is still up in the air, right? Like we're not sure. But he could possibly pull some pieces together if he pulls himself off the block and gets a big name out.
Right, and he has a lot of leverage here, and it'll be interesting to see what happens. I'm assuming, he'd be dumb not to play it, but we'll see what happens if he uses it. But he's in a good position here where people want to work with him, people aren't taking him seriously, and I feel like he wants to keep it that way. But yeah, it'd be something crazy to see David Alexander pull off a all-star or crazy move in All-Stars, and I hope he's able to do it.
Yeah, cool. Well, I'll just go ahead and address this too. I saw that as well. I don't know if that's an error on the video or not. I hope it's not. That'd be awesome if it was. But they also have the Top 100 Survivor finale tonight as well. I'm not sure if maybe both the pages, that's who's watching both the videos together. I'm not really sure. We're just going to roll with it. And if you guys are watching, send in comments. We'll answer them. We'll discuss things, We're pretty interactive here. But yeah, I think there's something else going on here. But hey, if 31,044 people are watching this, hey, thank you guys. Comment with us, interact with us. It'll be fun. Yeah, so Davon goes in with Danny and basically starts kind of trying to push for Tyler, right? Lucky for her, Danny is already on that Tyler roadway, right? Like she's already thinking that it might be the time.
Right, and she's thinking it may be the time, but she's also wondering if it's too soon. And this goes back to what we keep talking about in terms of Danny's gameplay, whereas she jumped a little bit too fast out of the gate in season 13, where she flipped on her alliance. It probably would have taken her far in the game, and obviously she got sent home early in the jury phase. So she even references the last time that she played a little too quick or a little too aggressive too early. So this is just a hesitation on Danny's part because she wants to get Tyler out of here because she's worried Tyler will take her out before she has the chance to take him out. But she just doesn't know if it's too early.
Yeah, and Code, they did not air that. I didn't think they would when I heard about it. The reason is CBS is making it very known that they're pushing good human moments every week, a couple of episodes a week. They're pushing the Davon and Kaser conversation, the Ian coming out and saying he's on the spectrum, that conversation, the people that are like Janelle when she started crying, people growing as people. They're not going to show that negative stuff. To my understanding, production has spoken to those people involved. But no, they didn't show that conversation. You can get on YouTube, though, and you can watch the clips. I believe it's Memphis, Danny, Nicole, and Ian. No, Ian wasn't in there. Memphis, Danny, Nicole. Who was the fourth?
I think it was Cody.
Was it Cody?
Might
Why
have
is
been.
Cody not getting any backlash for this?
Yeah, I don't know. It's a lot of people are saying the same thing about Memphis and getting canceled, but people are like, Memphis doesn't really care, so they're not going after him. They're more so going after people who have brands such as Nicole, as we talked about. But it's an unfortunate situation. I mean, it's getting sad at this point. I mean, I feel like the last 6 years we've just had a controversy.
Oh, it's Christmas, not Cody. It was Christmas.
Christmas? Okay. Thank you for clarifying that, Cody. But,
that's why when you said Cody, I was like, this dude's got, like, no skin in the game here. Like, nobody is talking bad about Cody. Like, how does he get away with this? But yeah, so it was Christmas. So Cody comes in after Davon and Danny are kind of pushing for Tyler. And Danny – I think this might be a mistake by Danny, wouldn't you say? Where she basically kind of tells Cody, "I'm looking at Tyler. I'm looking at possibly putting Tyler." I don't think Cody's the one you tell that to.
Right, and we cut to the DR of Cody saying he wants to keep Tyler around as a meat shield, and which I think is a perfect strategy from Cody's part. But yeah, you don't show your cards. I mean, she's got to know.
With somebody like Cody, who is with a lot of different people.
Exactly. He has plenty of other options other than Danny. I mean, sure, like if he wants to continue working with Danny, he could definitely do that, and that can take them far. But I mean, you know, probably not the right person to tell in that situation.
Right, because now it's not going to be a surprise. Now Tyler's radar is going to be up. If it wasn't already, it is now. Because there's no way it's going to get another day and Cody ain't talking to Tyler. That's just not going to happen.
Right, and we're finally getting to the point in the season where me and you have both been talking about for weeks, where we've wanted the cracks to start, you know, forming in this alliance, and thankfully it's finally happening. But it could all come to a climax on Tuesday, and it'll be interesting to see what happens moving forward. But I would say within the next week or two, this the committee is going to be disbanded.
Right. And Cody, he basically pushes for Kevin and David. He says, "Hey, those are the two people that aren't really in any of our alliances. So that's simple, right?" Which I guess they've completely removed David at this point, because David was in with them. I guess they just decided, he's not worth the time, the effort it is to corral him back in. Let's just put him up with Kevin. Which
was confusing me too, because they want to work with them, but like, who would they target in that situation? Like Kevin or I feel like I don't know if they would really care if he was home there, but I don't know.
And they get mad at David when David starts playing the game with other people, but they're sitting there just like, just throw David up. He's in our alliance, but it's okay. He won't play with nobody else, and if he does, we'll just chastise him and tell him how terrible he is. Like, what do you want from the man? What do you want from him?
Exactly. Yeah, and I mean, as for those noms, if that was, I mean, we're going to get into this where Danny possibly is posting like a bigger picture. But having those two noms and having one of those two be your target is just so short-sighted and such a long game. If you really think that getting out David or Kevin at this point in the game is going to take you farther when you could bring them in and use them as a number in the long run, that's just such a bad way, in my opinion, to be playing Big Brother, because there's just so many bigger fish to fry. And, you know, that would just be putting the whole go with the house and don't ruffle any feathers strategy on steroids, which is just like watching or hearing nails on a chalkboard at this point.
So how do you feel about the Tyler and Danny conversation, where Tyler's basically saying, look, if it's me, it's me, but if it's not, we're guaranteed Final Four?
She's going to see right through that. She even says multiple times, she's like, shut up, Tyler. Like, you're so stupid. It's just like, I don't know. Is he like trying to insult her? Like, he's literally like acting like a used car salesman. He's going to tell you everything you want to hear, because she's like, you know, if you don't go up and you make it past this week, let's go Final Six with the committee. He's like, I'll do you one better. Let's do Final Four. I mean, does she not know? Like,
I'll do Final Four, but you can do 6, so I won't go after you. So if you put me up at 6 and then I get put up at 5, it's all okay. At Final Four is when we'll really hash it out. Like, I was like, Tyler, come on, man. Like,
it's not genuine. I mean, Danny's a super fan. She clearly watched him do that throughout the course of season 20. I mean, come on. He's not fooling anyone with that. And he did the same thing as the original season when Haley was HOH. He's like, oh, you can like backdoor me or whatever if you want. And I'm just like never tell someone to nominate you. That's just so, I don't know. I don't get it.
Maybe he's resigned to the fact that bridge is burned and he knows that she's going to probably attempt to do the back door.
What's the payoff, though? That's my only question. Like, what's the payoff on giving someone permission to put you on the block? That's just what confuses me.
Maybe it's the fact that, you know, Danny might think she's being sneaky by backdooring Tyler. Tyler comes to her face and says, hey, I know you're putting me up, and that's okay. You know, maybe he thinks that gets her a little rattled, which I don't think it will with Danny, but maybe he thinks that gets her a little rattled, and then the veto's won by somebody it shouldn't be won by, and then all chaos breaks loose, right?
Maybe she was having flashbacks to Lawan in season 13, asking to get voted out because he thought there would be like some special powers when he got evicted. So
I'll never forget Lawan's confessional when he said, I'm going to tell them that I want to be voted out because you know what? I might come back with some superpowers. I'm just like, get out the house. Just go. Get out. Like You're taking up the spot in the game. Just go. And then it actually happened, though. It actually happened where he had a chance to do it.
I feel like the producers had, like, when I was watching that, I'm like, okay, the producers had to have tipped him off, and they maybe like paid him and said, like, okay, if you make yourself look like an idiot on TV, like, we'll give you some sort of stipend or something. I don't know. That whole thing seemed weird, but, you know, talk about an all-star move, like asking to get voted out and get some special powers to come in. So kind of wish we had Lawan this season.
Listen, Lawan, I've heard he's an amazing person, great guy. I don't need him back in the house.
In the words of Jackson Mickey, Lawan was playing chess while everyone else was playing checkers.
That's another thing I don't ever want to hear again. Good God. And I don't ever look at another watermelon again in my life. Yeah, so moving on. Danny and Nicole get together in the HOH. They're a tight two, but I feel like their games are about to go in drastically separate directions. So I'm interested to see how this relationship holds up, because Danny is not one to stick around if you don't help her, right? Like, if you're not helping her get ahead in some way, she'll cut you loose. So, and Nicole has a history of being a snitch. So I wonder how this goes. I'm excited to see where this goes, because clearly, right, would you agree that their games are headed in opposite directions?
They're heading in opposite directions. It's just up to them if they actually head in opposite directions, because they still both want to work with each other. And this is where their whole pregame relationship comes into effect. I mean, we saw Winners at War was dictated by pre-existing relationships, and obviously that's going to happen in any all-star season. So, you know, it seems like Nicole really still wants to work with Danny, but, you know, depending on what Danny does this week with her HOH, Nicole may start to stride in another direction, or, you know, kind of distance herself from Danny. So we'll see, because I do think they both genuinely want to be in those final two seats, but, you know, I don't.
Yeah, they're good friends outside of the house. That's what's going to be interesting about it, is they're really good friends outside of the house. When you're in the house, you're a tight two, and your games go separate ways. Something's got to give. One of them is going to have to do what they don't want to do to better their game, they feel. And
the thing that's interesting that they have going for them on their side is that, to this point, no one's really dissected them two as a tight duo, so they could ride that to the end if they are able to get on the same page soon, but they're going to have to do it quickly.
Right, and so Nicole as well, because Nicole and Cody are close as well. They push for David and Kevin. So she kind of pushes Dan and says, hey, let's just do David and Kevin for right now. Let's not take those shots. Let's keep those shields out there. And I heard something crazy in that conversation, and I don't know if you caught it as well. I think it was Danny said, I quote, I'm scared of Christmas.
I heard that too, and I put that in my notes. I'm like, somehow Christmas has become one of the most powerful players in this game, whereas we had last week at the veto where Bailey had to ask permission to out Christmas's number one, and now we have Danny saying she doesn't want to upset her. It's like,
what's going on here? Like, you're asking permission to save your own game from Christmas. You won't put nominations on the block because or certain noms on the block because you don't want to upset Christmas. Who is Christmas?
She's
won competitions. So what?
She's doing her best cult leader impression of Paul from season 19, where people were afraid to go against Paul, and now Christmas is somehow, some way accumulating so much power where she's kind of like this like godfather person where people are afraid to go against her. That was really mind-boggling to me, though. I mean, it'd just be so easy.
One good week.
Right.
She's had one good week. Like, as far as winning comps and having power. Other than that, she hasn't done anything.
Everyone likes her. That's the only thing she's got going for her. I mean, everyone in the house seems to.
I'll tell you who doesn't like her.
Except for Davon. Right.
Yeah. If Davon if she survives this week or next week and wins HOH, you know who's going on. You know who's going on the block. Without a doubt. It's 100%. She might just try to nominate Christmas twice. Like, that's how much she does for Christmas.
It'd be so easy to put Christmas up there and say, you're CrossFit, you've already won some comps this season, like, let's get you out of the house. So the fact that she's in a power position is a little confusing to me.
Yeah, and Kevin goes up there again, and we've already addressed this. this whole whiny, I don't want to be a pawn kind of thing. And then in the DR, he kind of was lighthearted about it and joked around. Like he's, no, I don't want to be the pawn anymore. I don't want to be the pawn. Two things need to happen then, Kevin. You need to do something and win HOH or win a veto and not be a pawn, or just accept the fact that you're a pawn. Just accept it and work with it, you know? Sometimes that's what you have to do, and we already talked about that. Sometimes you just have to embrace your position in the game. It's a risky position, but you just have to embrace it.
Right, and I understand when he was talking to Danny up in the the HOH room that she kind of put him on the spot there, saying like, would you be willing to be put up as a pawn if I can get people to say you're not going home? And obviously when you're getting put on the spot in Big Brother, it's very tough to come up with something to say to potentially convince someone to go in the other direction. But his pitch there of saying like, I'm not an alliance, I don't want to be seen as expendable, he's kind of just,
he's confirming it.
He's basically saying like everything he was saying is a reason to put him up as a pawn because he's not working with anyone. Let's just put him up. Like, that's not going to make anyone mad if you're not an alliance, Kevin. That's just basically volunteering to be a pawn, essentially. So that wasn't really a good pitch, but it's a tough situation to be in. I do think Kevin in that situation, I mean, he botched it because he lost any leverage he could have gained from that conversation. But, at this point, as we said, it'd just be best for him to embrace being a pawn for the next few weeks and just play that angle of being a team player.
So, guys, Kevin and David are the nominations. We will be back on I'm going to have to remember that. Tuesday, not Wednesday. I'm going to have to write that down because I'll forget.
One more thing I just want to say is I thought it was hilarious how the final scene we saw before the camera cut was Memphis consoling David about being on the block. We see
I didn't see that. I missed that. I guess I was setting this up and I missed that. Okay.
Yeah, because David was just talking about in the DR how he's thinking about using his disruptor power, and then we just get to a scene of Memphis just patting David on the back.
That would be so good. Like, I don't like David as a player. I don't think he's very good, but using his disruptor power to pull himself off, put up Memphis and vote Memphis out, that checks so many boxes for me of just good, entertaining TV.
Oh, yeah. So entertaining. Right.
Yeah.
Be one for the record books.
Yeah. So David and Kevin are the noms, guys. We went through the whole episode for you, just like we normally do at the end of our recaps. A couple of housekeeping things. If you guys like this video, like it, click the notification bell, comment below. We interact, we go back, we watch the video, we comment with other people. If you guys enjoy the video, you can go join the Russell Hantz Show Patreon group. You can join for as little as $5 a month. David is a patron. I am a patron. We have a whole bunch of other patrons. If you guys like to do recaps, if you guys like to participate in content and create content, feel free. I don't know. I'm not sure what Anthony is referring to here, Anthony. Do you mean veto? I don't, because we don't watch the feeds on this one. I think David actually watches the feeds, right?
I mean, I don't know what happens. I just watched the quick little clips on YouTube, like the non-related game ones, pretty much.
For these recaps, Sundays and Wednesdays, we avoid the live feeds. Don't spoil. Hey, don't do that. We will block people who spoil, so let's not do that. On Thursdays are the evictions. That's when Russell, has a former Big Brother player, he goes over things that happen on the live feeds and all that kind of stuff. All right, we're just gonna have to block Anthony Bishop at this point. Let's see, we can, Cody, if you want, just message me. You're already a patron, I believe. You can just get on there, message me, let me know what you want to do, and we can talk about that. We also have a cruise going on. If you guys want to go on a cruise, we're on a cruise next year, the patron group. We have 40 rooms booked. You can join up. All you got to do is become a patron member. We'll send you a link. I
am not David Alexander, by the way, but I appreciate the compliment to Chris.
No.
I wish I was a Big Brother All-Star.
No, he's not. He's not David Alexander. Maybe we'll get him on here at one point. That'd be pretty cool. But we're going to go ahead and head out, guys. We appreciate it. I don't know if we had 31,000 people watching this video. It'd be pretty cool if we did, but I'm pretty sure it's just because we got the top 100, which is going on currently as well. If you guys haven't checked that out, what it is, Russell Hantz, a bunch of other former Survivor players got together, made a top 100 list of the 100 greatest survivors. Today is the finale. They're doing a live show, a pre-show, a post-show. They're interviewing everybody. I think that's going on right now, isn't it? Are they doing that and then a post-show after?
I think so, yeah.
If you haven't seen, they go 10 at a time. So they went from 100 to 91, 90 to 81, whatever, something like that. It goes every 10, and they're doing the final 10 today. So it's pretty cool. It's awesome content, guys. Go check it out. We will be back on Tuesday to go over the veto when hopefully the disruptor power is used and the alliances crumble. And then Russell will be on, I believe, Thursday with a former Big Brother player going over player performances, the eviction, and how he thinks the game is going and what's going to happen in the future of the game. But you guys take care, and we'll see you on Tuesday.
See you guys Tuesday.